Hey everybody, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com. I have two bits of information to share with you. The first, I'm really excited. I got a new microphone, so hopefully you're going to be able to hear me a lot better. I will be using the new microphone in the 3-part tutorial, which I just finished recording for you for this stunning diaper bag here. And this bag has double padded straps. It has 3 pockets on the front and the back. It has a removable, adjustable messenger strap, 2 pockets here on the side. It has side snaps that allow the bag to expand if you need, but then those same snaps also offer the bag its awesome shape and allow these pockets to poke out here. Another way that you might style this is to punch those pockets in on the side, and that gives the bag a great look as well. And then it has the zipper top closure on that. Voila. Which then inside you have 2 wide elasticized pockets on that side, and then on this side there is a full length zipper pocket here at the top, which will hold lots of goodies, 2 more elasticized pockets, and then a swivel key fob. So this baby is loaded up. It's gorgeous. It's a nice standalone bag. I'm really excited to show you step by step how to make this gorgeous bag. So again, that's going to happen in 3 segments, which will take place the next 3 Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. I hope to see you then. Hi everyone, it's Andrea over at Sewspire.com, and today we are here to begin a brand new sewing project. We're going to be assembling my ultimate Ziptop diaper bag. Now this is a really great size bag that can be used for everyday use. So I just happen to have marketed it and sold it as a diaper bag, but it truly is a multi-purpose bag with lots of pockets and the zipper top closure. So I do have a full step-by-step PDF tutorial which you can purchase for a nominal fee. I'll put the link down below for you. That includes all the pattern measurements, photos, and again, step-by-step on how to assemble this project. In these videos that we are going to assemble the bag together in, I am going to incorporate a full length interior zipper pocket and some elasticized interior zipper pockets. If you have been following the channel for even just a few months, you should have the knowledge and skills that you need to customize your pockets to suit your needs perfectly. That's one of the greatest benefits of being able to sew your own bag, is that you can size your pockets to hold your contents perfectly. So do take this opportunity to think about what you would like to carry in this bag and take advantage of this unique skill set that we have, sewing, and size those pockets perfectly. I like to go ahead and sketch it out so that I know what I'm going to be doing. For this one, I'm probably going to use it as a work bag to go back and forth between studios, and so the elasticized pockets would be really handy for me for storing fabric and other supplies, charger cords, and things like that. So please let me know in the comments if you have any questions. We're going to sew for about 20 minutes today. I have all the pattern pieces cut out, pressed, and prepped, and I'll give you the measurements as we go along. But I encourage you to purchase the tutorial so that you can have written instructions and take notes as we sew together. All right, so when I'm making this bag, I like to begin with the exterior, and For this particular bag, the handles span from the base of the bag and are attached in between that pocket seam, the exterior, and the base seam. So I like to use a 6" by 44" or what I call a full cut of fabric there, and that will net you a very short, like 8 or 9" handle drop when this is all said and done. That's perfect for me because my bag is heavy, and so I'm rarely going to carry it on the shoulder. I'm always going to carry it in hand or in the crook of my elbow. If you need additional length in that drop there to carry it on your shoulder, or if you're going to be wearing a winter coat, say, you're definitely going to want to increase the length of these straps. I would start by adding anywhere from 6 to 12 inches to that. It would be way better for you to have them too long, because when you position them on the panel, you can cut off the excess versus too short, okay? And so I craft these straps in the same manner that I craft all the straps. I press them in half long ways, and then bring those raw edges inward to meet on that center press line. I give it another good press, and then I insert a 3" strip of quilt batting or fusible fleece. For this project, I am working with the fusible fleece, and it will offer the bag a lot of stability. So I have a 3" strip of fusible fleece in there, and I did cut that a little short of the ends of the strap, and that's just to reduce that bulk in that seam, okay? And so I have 2 of these full length straps, which they end up being 1.5 inches wide. They're really nicely padded, ready to go. So I like to start sewing down that open edge first, and then across the opposite edge there. Some of you may be surprised to see I'm working with a blue variegated thread today. This is exciting. And I'm just lining the edge of my foot right up with the edge of the strap, and that helps me sew nice and straight. Now, another little trick that I do, I use my hands to create like a channel for the strap so that I don't have to over control it, and that's how I get the stitches so nice and straight. And then the other tip that I have for you is you're going to sew wherever you place your eye, so focus on the needle and see if that doesn't help you. And then periodically I do stop just to adjust just a bit. And for this, I'm using a 3.5" stitch length. I find that's the perfect stitch length for bag making. And then when I get to the end of that strap, I just leave the needle in the down position, pivot, come across that raw edge, and then pivot again, come up that folded edge, and then I pivot again, come back over about 1/4 inch in from that first row of stitching, and I'm going to add an additional second row of stitching on each side. So in total, this strap will have 4 rows of top stitching. You're going to need to craft 2 of these straps, and with that 4 rows of stitching, the 4 layers of fabric and the 2 layers of fusible fleece, this is a fabulous strap that will not twist or turn or wrinkle on you. And so go ahead and duplicate that process so that you have 2 of those straps. Then you're also going to have two exterior pockets that measure 9 inches tall by 15 inches wide. And I take the top edges of those pockets and I press those over about 3/4 of an inch. And then I like to stagger that accent fabric so it peeps out just a smidgen over the top of that pocket. When I am making this bag, typically whatever my accent fabric is also my handle fabric. And I thought this little gingham check was gonna be a lot of fun with these big, beautiful, bold flowers. And this bag will be perfect for spring, but will also carry me right into summer with the check. So I am going to go ahead and stitch one row of stitching to secure that interior lining to this pocket, and then I'm going to add a second row of top stitching just like I did on the handles there to give the pocket a really nice finished look. And this time I'm just lining the edge of the foot up with that top exterior layer of the pocket. First row of stitching, and now I'm going to line the edge of the foot up with that stitching and add a second row. And that's what that looks like there. And then this pocket will get positioned on your exterior panel. The front and rear exterior panels are 12 inches tall by 15 inches wide. I backed mine with the fusible fleece, and that does give it a nice weight and stability there. This fusible fleece is really perfect for this pattern, but quilt batting will also work just as nicely. So then I position that pocket on top of this exterior body panel 4 inches down from the top of that, and that 4 inches is from the top of the pocket, so the lining, you know, peeps out just a bit. So there may be a little overhang at the bottom. That really isn't a problem. It'll be well concealed inside of your seam there. So what I like to do is put a pin on each side of this pocket, and then I measure in 4 inches from the edge there, and I put a pin going vertical there, and that is going to be my stitch line, where I am going to run 2 rows of vertical stitching through the pocket to divide the pocket. Now the handle will sit right on top of that stitching, so it will not be visible. I sometimes will press in the stitch lines. I'm pretty good at stitching straight now, and so I will not have to do that for this project, but I didn't want you to worry too much if your stitching is not perfectly straight, because we will be able to conceal that with the handle. And so now I'm just going to stitch from the top of the pocket to the base of the pocket 4 inches in, and I definitely want to back stitch at the top of this pocket because that is a stress point. Okay, and so now I've stitched 2 vertical rows there, 4 inches in from the sides, and the pocket is divided in thirds. These very narrow pockets on the left and the right hand side are perfect for your glasses, crochet hooks, pens, even charger cords. A little tip: if you want to make them shallow, just lift up that exterior layer and stitch across there, and then you could have a very shallow pocket that you could just reach right inside and get whatever you need. That might be nice for your earbuds or something like that. But in this case, I definitely am going to use them for my glasses and my pens, so I want to keep them nice and long. And so now you're going to take your strap, and I find that the strap lays nice if you put that edge that was open towards the exterior seams. And so I just center that strap right on top of that seam. So the strap ends up coming about 3 inches from the edge by the time it's on the center there. You can adjust as needed, and if you need a little bit more playroom, you know, you have that spans of the strap to adjust. The big thing really is just to make sure that the straps are the same distance from the edge of the bag so that it doesn't look crooked. And then the second consideration, of course, is that the strap is actually straight. You wouldn't want it to, for example, be 2 inches from the base and then 3 inches from the top. So the stitch line, as long as that's concealed, you're probably going to be okay. But it never hurts to measure and just double check that. Okay, and this is really fun, right? The gingham just totally changes the look of that fabric. It's just a blast, and you can see how sturdy that strap is. So now the next step is to stitch 2 rows of stitching across the pocket and the strap there, and I really try pretty hard to align the stitching from the pocket with the stitching on the strap, and most of the time it works out well for me. If it's not absolutely spot on, I usually won't take it out, but if I really mess that up, I will go back and take out those stitches and try to get it a little better. So the needle down position is super helpful when you're trying to get this precision here. This is a high stress area on this bag, so reinforce with that back stitch at the beginning and the end of both of these rows of stitching. Okay, and that looks pretty good. And then I just cut the thread there and bump over to the second side of that strap there, align it right on top of my stitching, and secure that with 2 rows. Very nice. And so most hands will fit in that wide center pocket there, and then these shallow pockets are like 2-finger pockets. So you're going to need to duplicate that for your rear exterior panel. So the next thing that we're going to work on are the side exterior panels and the side exterior pockets. And so the actual side exterior pockets measure 8 inches by 11 inches tall, and I have an exterior and a lining for that, which I also press over that top edge and then stagger that interior lining just a bit so that the exterior lining pops up. And I decided in the design phase of this that I did want the gingham on the side pockets as well. So I just cut a very small strip of that and folded it in half, and I'm just going to tuck it in between those layers. So these side pockets here will end up having 6 layers of fabric towards the top there, which will be really nice because it'll make that top edge nice and rigid. So I'm just going to line that up and add the 2 rows of stitching across those side exterior pockets, which there are 2 of those, to get that same look that I have going on with the front and rear exterior pockets. And so you're going to duplicate that for your second exterior pocket, and then the exterior side panels are 8 by 12, also backed with the fusible fleece. And this exterior pocket is going to get positioned 3 inches from the top of that panel, so there is overhang at the bottom of this pocket, and that will eventually get trimmed off. Since I have changed the order of operations for the T method, it is not quite as essential to have that overhang at the bottom of the pocket. So if you wanted to, you could adjust the measurements on your pattern for those exterior pockets and shorten those by about 1.5 inches. That's the excess at the bottom here that I have, but that pattern was created many years ago, and so I do not have the ability to edit it, but you could just make a note on that. Again, it's minimal fabric waste there, so if you want to just leave the pattern measurements as is, that will work for you too. And what that does is just a little insurance policy that you do in fact have enough material at the base of that pocket to capture all those layers in that side seam. Okay, so you get your pocket attached there, and then a fun thing about this bag is there are side snaps on these panels, and that allows you to draw in the side of the bag. It gives the bag a really awesome shape. And so I have been working with these Dritz heavy duty snaps. I got a bulk pack at Joann's. These ones are really nice. They have the big deep prongs, and they are a little bit larger than the ones that you can find right now at Hobby Lobby. And so when you're working with these snaps, you have the decorative head, the male portion, the female portion, and then the prongs. The fusible fleece that I have on the back of this can handle these snaps. If you're working with quilt batting, I suggest that you get a little piece of additional interfacing and reinforce these snaps there so over time they don't pull apart. But what you're going to do is position your snaps 2 inches down from the top and 2.5 inches in from the side. Okay, so I like to use the mat there, and we're coming in 2.5 inches and down 2 inches. And the big thing is just make sure that your snaps are level with each other, because there's going to be 2 snaps and they are above the pocket. So one of these fluff sticks that comes with the polyfill works beautifully to poke those prongs down in there. And then once you get the prongs coming up through the fusible fleece, the fabric, then you can position that female portion of the snap right on top of those prongs. If it's sitting nice and level, you know that you have everything in place. And then I just use a hammer to give it a few good whacks. And then you can insert the male portion on that. And then the remaining prongs, again, just come down 2 inches from the top and in 2.5 inches. And if you position that snap on your mat, you can just lay the fabric right on top of it. And you should, at this point, be able to eyeball the other snap to see if you are level. And once you're happy with that, then poke those prongs up through the fabric, And then what I like to do is hold those prongs in place and fold that pocket panel in half, get those prongs to rest inside of the opposite snap there. And I may have said you're installing 2 snaps on one side. You're actually installing 1 snap just on the same side. And that will be clear to you in just a moment. So once you know those prongs are positioned, then give it a few whacks. And then at this point, I turn it over to the opposite side there and give it a few more whacks. You will definitely want to make sure that this snap is securely installed, because it would be a difficult fix if it was not. So I always, just for a good measure, a few more whacks. And then that's what the snaps look like. So you have the male portion, the female portion, and the decorative portion and the non-decorative portion, like that, 2 inches down, 2.5 inches in. And so those will snap like this here and draw in those side panels. But while we're constructing the bag, we're going to leave that unsnapped. So you're going to replicate that process to create a second side panel. And then you are going to cut out a base panel for this project, which uses the T method of construction. And that base panel is 8 inches by 15 inches. So while you're working on that, I am going to prep my second set of pockets, and then we will reconvene and we will actually assemble the exterior of this bag using the new T method. All right, so I will see you soon. Okay, so now I have my 2 exterior front and rear panels with the handles and the 3 pockets crafted, in addition to my 2 side panels with the snaps and the pockets, and my base panel. And so I am ready to assemble the exterior of this beautiful bag using the new T method. And so I'm going to position one of those panels on the table, right side facing up. And then the first side panel will be positioned along that right hand side. And I align the top edge, and then I peel that back, and that side pocket should be approximately 1 inch up above that front pocket. And so for me, I like to get the same distance on both sides so that the bag looks nice and even. And that's why I take a little peek before I pin everything down, so that then when I position the second panel on the opposite side, right sides facing, I can fold that back and tell if I am in the range there. If you aligned everything up and nothing shifted, then that should be the case, and the pocket should be level and even there. But occasionally things do shift and it doesn't work out as you'd hope. So I like to double check, and it does look pretty good to me. And so now I want to use 5/8 of an inch seam allowance to stitch down the right and the left hand sides and join these side panels to that first body panel. are going to trim away that excess, and I am trimming this down to about 1/4 inch. The reason that you use such a generous seam allowance is because there are a lot of layers here, and you want to make sure that you've captured those pockets in between the body and the side panels there in that seam. And so in addition to using the generous seam allowance, then I always open that panel up and give those pockets a tug and make sure that everything is as it should be. It's coming together so pretty. This fabric was a gift. The floral fabric was a gift, and I really love it. This is just so, so beautiful. Okay, so we have our tri-folding panel here. We're going to set that aside for a moment, and we are going to bring over the second exterior panel here with the handles on that and the base panel, and I'm going to line up the base panel along the bottom edge there, and if there's any pocket overhang at all, you want that base panel aligned with the actual body panel underneath. So once you get that situated, go ahead and put a pin in that, and then you might want to turn it over and just double check that everything is even. Then you're going to use the same generous 5/8 of an inch and stitch across there. And this appears as if it's more than 5/8 of an inch, and that's because I did have a little overhang there with the pockets, and the strap, of course, extended a little bit past there, so the 5/8 of an inch is from the interfacing there. But again, before I trim that, just to make sure, I like to open it up and give the handles a tug. Sometimes I'll even put my hand in the pocket and make sure that lining is captured in that seam allowance. And then once I know everything looks good, then I trim that up to the 1/4 inch there so that everything is nice and tidy. And that's what the 2-ply panel looks like. So the handles are not attached here on the front of the pocket, and this becomes a great resource because you can roll or fold things up and slip it between those two handles, and that gives you another little design element that adds function to this bag. But the handles are secured at the base, at the pocket, and they will be secured at the top. So there's still 3 layers of reinforcement there, or 3 points of reinforcement. And so now the next step is to bring back over that tri-folding panel, open that up so the right sides are facing up on your table there, and then position your double panel right sides facing on top of that tri-folding panel, and center the base of your base with the tri-folding panel, the base of the tri-folding panel there. And again, you're going to be lining up the interfacing, so if you had any little overhang from your handles or your pocket, go ahead and scooch that base up a bit. And as soon as I get this pinned, I will hold that up so that you can see. So I'm going to now stitch seam to seam, which is not end to end, okay? And I can't see the seam on the top there, but I can feel it. And if you're more comfortable, you can sew from the bottom to be sure that you're only stitching seam to seam. Okay, so I've stitched seam to seam, and now I have what looks like a giant T panel. So towards the top here is the tri-folding panel with the sides. That's the top of the T. And then I have the base and the opposite front or rear panel, depending upon which you prefer, is towards the bottom there. And so now a change in the order of operations for the T method. We are going to join the base of this side to the side of this base. Now there is the excess at the bottom of that pocket, and you're just going to move that out of your way there so that you can align the actual interfaced pieces there, and mine is nice and level. After I stitch this, I will trim up that excess from that pocket. And again, I just want to stitch seam to seam. So I am going to be leaving that seam allowance open on the one side that is not yet raised up, and then stitching all the way to the seam. And your project should look like that. And then you're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. You're just aligning the side of the base with the base of the side. And stitching seam to seam. Okay, and then I liken this to a photo box or a stage, and so I have raised the rear wall there and the two side walls. Now I just have to bring up this panel here and align those sides. And so you want to take your time here and try to achieve the same distance between that side pocket and that body pocket that spans the front and or rear of your bag. And so I get a couple pins in place, and then I peek inside and see if that looks level, and it is looking good. And then I go ahead and work on the other side and get it all pinned in place and positioned. And then I can stitch up both of those sides. Okay, very nice. I'm really excited to turn this bag around and see how pretty it is. So now I'm going to stitch from the top to that bottom seam using the same 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then repeat that same process for the opposite side. Sometimes it's easier to start from the base on the opposite side, and that's perfectly fine. Just back it in so you start right on that seam. And then once you have those last two side seams in place, peek inside one more time and make sure nothing shifted and those pockets are in fact nice and level. And then you can go ahead and carefully trim up those side seams and that one last base seam to the 1/4 inch. I like to do the sides first and then kind of angle that out. You don't want to accidentally cut into your corner. these pockets as well. And the last thing that I have to trim up is the second base that has the little extra overhang from the handles. And when you get to those corners, just kind of round that out. Okay, so now the exterior is complete. I'm going to remove the pins and turn that around so you can see how pretty it is. And then next week we are going to craft the interior, which will have several elasticized pockets and a zipper pocket that has a couple elasticized pockets on top of that. So those modifications are a little different than the pattern. So if you are not comfortable customizing your pockets, hold off on cutting your interior until next week when you watch that video. But in the meantime, you can be working on selecting your fabrics and assembling your exterior and gathering your interfacings and such. So that will be fun for you. This is really, really, really pretty. So fun. And you can see it's a really nice size bag. I want to turn over this top edge here and snap these snaps for you so you can get a better idea of the shape of this beautiful bag. And I'm just going to fold that top edge over about 3/4 of an inch and then clip that. I like to begin on these side panels here. Okay, now you can really get a feel for how the bag is going to look. So when those sides are snapped, these exterior side pockets pop out there. Another option is for you to tuck those pockets in, especially if they don't have contents, and then it takes on a really great look as well. And that does make the bag appear to be a little smaller. It's just such a fabulous shape, and this gingham is a blast with this floral. I encourage you to think outside of the box when it comes to pairing the geometrics with the florals. Like I have the polka dots in the background here, and then the gingham. It really is a lot of fun. So we have the exterior crafted, and then as mentioned, next week I'm going to show you how to craft the interior, and we are going to be integrating a swivel fob, a full-length zipper pocket, and then on the front of those that zipper pocket there, I'm going to install some elasticized pockets, and then on the opposite interior wall will be another row of elasticized pockets. So if you're uncertain about the measurements for this type of pocket configuration, stay tuned until next Tuesday and I will go over all that with you. You can purchase the original PDF tutorial, which has step-by-step instructions and incorporates slip pockets into the interior if you like, and then take notes next week for this custom pocket configuration. The choice is yours. I'll put a link to the tutorial down in the notes in case you'd like to grab that. And I want to thank you for spending this time with me. It was an absolute pleasure. I am super excited to finish this gorgeous bag, and I can hardly wait to see you next week. Until then, as always, please know the creative genius in me will be celebrating the creative genius in you. I hope you all have a beautiful week. Thank you for sewing with me.